This is a summary video of the Contract Management System demo given on May 21st, 2013. To begin the demo, we'll start off by submitting a contract through the end user interface. To submit a contract, we can either click the link or click the tab at the top of the page. Because I've logged into the system as Helen Jensen, the credentials are automatically pulled into the contract. First, let's select the type of contract. Next, let's select the company name. The system uses predictive text, so I can enter a portion of the name of the company, and you can see that the name is then provided to us, and we can pull that into the system along with the main company contact. Let's give it a contract title, and then we can select from some other visibility dependent fields. Notice that these fields are visible based on the type of contract vendor. If I were to select client, notice how they change. We'll go back to vendor, and now we can enter contract description and contract start and end dates. Next, we can enter the contract value and add the contract files that we have. To add a contract, we'll click the Attach Manage button, and then we'll click the Browse button to browse to the location of our contract. Once we've located our contract document, we can click Open, and then we can pull the contract into the system. Click Finish to save the attachment. At this point, I can now save the contract and save it in its draft status, or I can scroll to the top of the page and click Submit for review to begin the review process. Now we can review the contracts by going to the My Contracts page, clicking the link, and seeing the test contract we just submitted. Notice that it is in the status of submitted, and if we click the edit symbol next to the contract, you can see that we're allowed to only view the contract and not edit the contract. This is permissions based and can be modified as needed. We'll click Close to exit. Next, let's go to the Power User interface and look at the contract we just submitted. Here we are at the home page of the Power User interface. Here we can see a widget-based home page that will include charts and tables. It's a quick dashboard to allow users to see the contracts that are currently out there. Let's go to the Contracts table by clicking the Contracts link on the left-hand toolbar side, and then we can view the contract we just submitted. Let's first talk about the document check-in and check-out feature. We'll scroll to the bottom of the page and click the Attach Manage button to open up the contract itself. Notice on the far right there are three icons. The first one is an icon to check out the document. The second one is to update it, and the third is to delete the contract file itself. Let's start by checking out the document. I'll click the checkout icon. We're now given a choice to open up the contract directly into Word or save the file. We'll go ahead and open it up in Word and check out the document itself. Next, we'll begin to make edits, so we'll go ahead and click Finish to close out the attachment window. Here's the contract that we saved to our desktop, and now we can begin to make any kind of edits that we desire on the contract. We can come to Review and make sure that Tracking Changes is turned on so that we can see the changes that have been made to the contract, and then we can delete items as necessary. We'll highlight, delete, and then we'll save the contract back to our desktop. Now that we have the contract saved, we can close out the Word document. Let's go back into our contract now and check in our document. If we click Edit, and we scroll to the bottom of the page, click Attach Manage, notice that a couple things have changed. First, we have an indicator on the left that we have multiple files. If we expand this out, we can show the original contract that was created and that the contract was checked out. And it shows who the contract was checked out to and the date and time. Over on the right hand side, we now have, instead of the checkout, we have a release icon, and now we have the update icon itself. Let's go ahead and update our contract. We'll click the update. Now we browse to the location on our desktop and attach the contract. Once we find our file, we can click open to save the contract and click fit and click attach to attach it to the contract. Now that the contract has been checked in, it will become accessible once we click finish and save the record. We'll click finish, and now we'll save our record. Contract check-in and check-out can be fully enforced, so it allows only the individual who checked out the contract to check in any updates. Next, let's talk about the approval workflow process. Let's open up our contract one more time. And notice at the top that I've selected the approval type of a parallel for this contract. In this case, I can select any one of the 6 different contract approval templates. Chief Operating Officer will select Financial, Legal, and we'll select a Senior VP. At this point now, I can save the contract, or once again, I can click the Submit for Approval to begin the approval process. Let's submit this for approval. You can see now that the status of the contract is in pending approval. If we expand out the contract and go to our Approvals tab, you can see now that we have 3 approval records that have been automatically generated and assigned to the various teams. We also have a counter now that has been added as well, showing the number of approvals as well as the number of approvals and rejections. Now we can begin the approval process. A notification will have gone out to all 3 teams to alert them that there is an approval pending their approval or rejection, and then they would come in by clicking a link within the email or logging into the system and editing the approval record assigned to them. Let's open up the legal review team first. Here is the approval record for the legal team. We can come in here and select approved or rejected, and then we can enter some approval notes. At this point now, I can click Save to register the approval or rejection. Notice that it's been updated and showing that it has been approved. And if we were to go back into the approval record itself by clicking the edit symbol, we can see that the approved by and date approved has now been populated with the information showing who actually made the approval and the date and time the approval occurred. We can click cancel to exit. As we go through the records, we can tally up the approvals and rejections, and when all 3 approvals have been completed, then the status of the contract will change and the contract management team will be alerted that the contract has been, the approval process has been completed. If we click Save now and exit the contract, and once again come back into the contract, go to the Approvals tab, we'll notice that the comments that we entered on the legal review team approval record have been now added to the contract record itself. So with this, we'll have one location where all the approval notes can be contained. We'll finish by approving the other 2 records and changing the status of the contract. We can now see that the contract has changed status to approvals complete, and if we edit the contract once more, going to the Approvals tab, we can see all of the approval contract comments added to the contract itself, along with the 3 approval records. We can click Cancel now to exit the contract. Let's create another contract as a power user and use the sequential approval process. We'll click New, and we'll select the type of contract. In this case, we'll select the sequential approval type. And now we must select the approval workflow that we're going to use. In this case, we'll use the number 1 workflow. These workflows can be defined over in the approval workflows table, which are composed of approval steps. All of the approval records, either parallel or sequential, are stored in the approval records table and linked to their appropriate parent contract. We'll enter the company name, same as we did before. And we'll enter a contract title, and we can enter a contract description as well. As we scroll to the bottom of the page, we can enter the contract start and end date and the contract value. And then finally we can add some contract files. So this time now we'll go ahead and click Submit for Approval to begin the sequential approval workflow. So we can see the contract is now in pending approval status. As we edit the contract, we now see a graphic appearing showing the current step of the sequential approval workflow. If we go to the Approvals tab, we see a new set of fields showing the step, the current approval team, the next approval team, and the place to approve or reject, as well as the approval notes. We'll click the drop down, and you see that we have 3 choices: approved to send forward, rejected to send backward, or rejected to restart the approval cycle. Since this is step 1, both steps 2 and selections 2 and 3 are identical in process. We'll select approved, and we'll enter an approval note. Once the approval notes have been entered, we can click Review Completed, and the review for that step has been completed. And then we'll click Edit. Notice we're at step 2 now. If we go to the Approvals tab, it's changed now to being the Senior VP Review Team and showing the next as the Chief Operating Officer. The comments that we entered in the last are also appended to the Approval Notes section, and if we scroll down, we can see the actual approval record linked into the contract. At this point, we can select Approve or Rejected, and in this case, let's go ahead and reject this and send it backwards to the the previous team for review. We'll select Rejected, Send Backwards, and we'll enter some notes. And we'll click Review Completed to finish the Senior VP review. If we go back into our contract and go to the Approvals tab, we can see we're back at step 1, and it's back with Finance Review Team. We can begin to make some modifications to the contract and then start the approval cycle over again. Click Approved and enter some notes. Once again, we can click Review Completed to enter review process. We'll click Edit. We're back to step 2. We can come to the Approvals tab and begin the same process over again. In this case, we'll approve. And we can scroll down and click Review Completed. Edit a 3rd time. And now we're to step 3. Go to the Approvals tab, and we can see that we do not have a next approval team. We're at the final step, and we can either approve or reject once again. We'll approve and send it forward. And if we scroll to the bottom of the page, we can see that we've collected all of the steps in the approval cycle, whether they've been approved or rejected. And now we'll click the Review Completed button to finish the review process. Notice that the status of the contract has now changed to Approvals Complete, and the appropriate team has been notified that the approvals have been completed. This completes the summary video of the Contract Management System demo.